Don't you have family dinners to attend or something? Upon the disappearance of the second spirit, Morgan realized with the past and present visiting that the upcoming future was possibly not to be that night. But he was too late to seek escape from his unfortunate fate. Game over, man! Game over!
Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmases yet to come?
Yeah. And I'm going to show you shadows of things that have not happened but will in the time before us.
Come again?
Look, kid, year after year I keep doing this gig as a break from my normal job, but oh no. It's always, don't make the death symbolism obvious. Be subtle. Don't talk. And point in places till they get the friggin' idea.
Well, I didn't think being a spirit of the future was that difficult.
Well, tough luck. This year I'm taking a break from tradition. This whole mute ghost thing was getting old anyway.
Ghost of the future. I fear you're stranger than any specter I've ever seen. But your purpose is well-meaning. Lead on.
First off, my name is Norm. Know it well so we don't have this ghost business. And second, I can't because I haven't fully received that information on my BlackBerry yet. Apparently there's a bad connection in this place.
Oh. Yeah. Bit of a crimp on the plan I can see there. Is there at least something I can watch as I wait for your journey into my fate?
I will, if you cut back on the theatrics, Dickens. All I have is a Planet of the Apes Christmas, How the Garbage Pail Kids Saved Hanukkah, Scrooged.
Scrooged! Yes, Scrooged. Of all the Christmas Carol adaptations I have seen in my life, this is one of my personal favorites. Even though I did see this at a young age when one would normally enjoy versions of the classic story with Mickey and the Muppets, this was my first exposure to the darker side of Charles Dickens' classic, which was even before I came across the 1984 version with George C. Scott. Now, of course, most of the film adaptations and parodies tend to stick closer to the original novella, but rarely does a version come along and have their own take of it. And this is the one that comes to mind when I think if there was one adaptation out there that was able to place it in modern times while sticking it true to its original roots. Now, considering how people are familiar with the original Christmas Carol tale, and yeah, this is another underrated flick that is hard to talk about from start to finish, I feel it's best to once again do a non-linear review with little to no spoilers. Consider it my personal Christmas gift. Besides, what better way would you prefer it? Well, the least what I can somewhat slightly spoil is the opening, which is probably the best way to set up the heartwarming yet darkly comical tone this movie has throughout.
Santa Claus, come quick! Look! Incoming!
It's the most energetic part of the movie, until it's revealed to be a promo for a fake Christmas special among a batch of others we wish would exist. As a kid, you can imagine how disappointed I was to see a holiday special with a holiday movie that has a great premise, was only crafted for a one-note joke. You know, like how Grindhouse had trailers for fake movies. But at least give that film some credit, most of the fake films actually became real movies. But still, at least Scrooge makes up for that with Bill Murray as Frank Cross, our Ebenezer for the story. Like Scrooge, he is cynical and less kind, but greedy for power as opposed to money. Frank is a high-powered TV executive that is not only successful, but ruthless and conceited. In fact, the choice of making such a career movement costs him to lose a love life, as well as alienating him from his own family. And just like the old miser, he feels the jolly holiday is a complete joke.
Frank, you don't like Christmas much, do you? Like it? I love it. It's cold, and people stay home and watch television. Ad revenues go up 30%. All these idiots are gonna be home watching the boob tube for me tonight. It's a crock, James. It's for kids. I want you to have a happy new year.
And sure enough, things get cooking when he's put in charge of a live Christmas Eve broadcast of A Christmas Carol, which instead in this version is called Scrooge. Now, despite having a clever film within a film concept, which works well to its advantage, the one thing I just don't get is, why is it called Scrooge? In fact, around the 80s, it was probably a public domain title, so why not call it A Christmas Carol? Either way, the network is planning this massive telecast and really wants to make it the must-see event of the season. You can't really blame them for trying when having guest stars on like Buddy Hackett, John Houseman, Mary Lou Retton, and the Solid Gold Dancers. And of course, what is a major television event without its marketing campaign? To which Frank the Cynic takes quite well.
We have spent $40 million on a live TV show. You guys have got an ad with America's favorite old fart reading a book in front of a fireplace. Now, I have to kill all of you.
And his cynical ways get even more questionable when he enforces him to play an ad he created that shows the opposite of Christmas joy. In fact, it has nothing to do with Christmas. Just a montage of clips that feel like they are meant to be in a horror movie rather than spread joy. Basically, the motive here is that Frank wants people to be literally so frightened that they have to see it. But why would one run a commercial that would possibly give a senior citizen a heart attack? Which, ironically, it does. Aside from that, what makes Frank more interesting is the relationship between him and his workers. He doesn't see them as people with a soul, just ants that are there to work. There's the secretary, Grace Cooley, played by Alfre Woodard, who fans of Desperate Housewives recognize her better as Betty from Season 2, and Lily in Star Trek First Contact. She's basically the Bob Cratchit of the story, who does what she can for her boss while trying to live with her family under poor conditions.
No, you're not. You're staying here with me. We're working late.
I have to take my son to the doctor.
Grace, we're indivisible. If I'm working late, you gotta work late. If you can't work late, I can't work late. If I can't work late, I can't work late!
Even though this is leaning a little towards that whole white guy picking on the little guy cliche, at least give them some credit for not making it stereotypical. And you do feel bad for what Grace has to deal with.
I think doctor is a Latin word for thief. $200 I don't have to tell me that you don't speak. I'm your mother. I know you don't speak.
And yeah, this is also the Tiny Tim of the story, Calvin. Not much to say since the only handicap Calvin has is that he can't speak. Even though we don't see much of him as the story is centered on Frank, we still feel sorry for Calvin as he can't voice his own opinion on things which make the character more vulnerable. And speaking of alterizations, instead of a nephew, our Scrooge is a brother! Just like Fred from A Christmas Carol, he is really into the spirit. But this is actually a change I feel is a big improvement over the Dickens tale. True, in the original story, Scrooge's nephew was the closest thing he had to a family, but here, this is his brother. The only sibling he looks to, even if the relationship is at arm's length. It makes the character of Frank more tragic as his brother really is the only one who cares about him, and yet he ignores this for his own needs. In fact, ironically enough, he is played by Bill Murray's real-life brother. And the chemistry between the two works well to the fact they feel like how normal siblings would. They may not get along, but in the end of it all, they still have feelings for each other. But probably the biggest change I'm surprised to say was worth doing is expanding the role of Scrooge's ex-girlfriend. True, she did serve a big purpose in the original tale, as in flashback she was the one and only love the miser ever had, and thanks to his greed in business, ended what could have been a possible life. In Scrooged, enter Claire, a kind-hearted girl that likes to make a difference around the holidays.
What about you? You sounded like you'd seen a ghost.
I came across your number, and I just had to call you immediately.
I know you, Lumpy. I know that voice. That was the frightened Lumpy I heard.
Oh, and would you believe that Karen Allen from Raiders of the Lost Ark portrays her? Guess Marion did have a past life after all. What I really like between these two is how you can never tell if they still happen to be interested in each other. This is proven by the way they talk, which feels and acts like a couple. But they tend to play around with that a lot. The chemistry between Bill and Karen feels heartwarming and very convincing at times. Like, you know, they were meant for each other. But their different views of how to run life get in the way. Another that makes this work is how the relationship between these two gets resolved at the end. I won't give too much away, but I'll put it like this. It's not often Scrooge gets his girl back once he's reformed. But aside from the basic, reimagined, and straight-up modernized versions, there's always going to be additional characters tossed into the mix. And how do they hold up? Well, for starters, Frank has a boss that is really on his tail most of the time, and even at one point almost gets him sacked with John Glover. While it's never really exploited in full detail, it's sorta hinted at that Frank's job is on the line and he's about to be replaced with fresher meat. Not a bad addition, but it's never really posed as an actual threat that much. True, we do get scenes where he runs a rehearsal with Frank and even continuously brags on about his work skills, but there's not much emphasis and feels kinda glance over at times. Then again, Frank has to deal with 3 grim grinning ghosts, and John Glover would later get a shot at the tycoon business in Gremlins 2, so maybe it's for the best. Then there's also Bobcat Goldthwait as a previous employer that is fired after giving negative feedback to Frank's scary Scrooge promo, and finds himself living among the bums. Knowing how loud Bobcat is on stand-up routines, I was surprised to see his crazy antics were toned down when we were first introduced to him. He acts very civilized at first, but not long till...
Honey, I'm home!
Well, folks, just like you asked for, I finally exploded! In fact, I just like how his madness builds from an innocent Seymour Krelborn to a hobo with a shotgun. You don't even expect this type of thing to happen. Throughout the entire movie, he has unsuccessful attempts to drink, gives blood, and then it all suddenly bursts into dangerous hilarity. You gotta love it. But of course, you can't have A Christmas Carol without the ghosts, and I must say, this movie does its job well adapting these memorable spirits. Jacob Marley's presented as Frank's boss, Lou Hayward, played by John Forsythe. Even though he has one scene, he comes off rather comical yet dark at first.
1 minute, I'm on the 14th hole at Wingfoot, lining up a putt. A heart attack later, I'm a worm feast.
But then things get really serious.
Oh no, please don't think I'm a suicide. We're way up here. Give me a break.
Really serious. Aside from the funny one-liners, this portrayal is effectively scary as the old counterpart. Instead of a massive chain, he's depicted as a rotting corpse. It almost feels like he's decomposing because of the evil he's done. It's eerie, creepy, but again, he knows when to be humorous.
I don't mind you hitting me, Frank, but take it easy on the Bacardi.
The rest of the ghosts, on the other hand, are the main focus of the picture, and get quite the upgrade. The Ghost of Christmas Past is a cigar-chomping taxi driver played by David Johnson, or better known as Buster Poindexter. Surprisingly enough, he does a very good job portraying a loud and Brooklyn-accented cynical spirit. But he is not like that all the time, and knows when to feel sorry for Frank and his pathetic past.
Frank, let me sum this up for you. You don't know who you are, you don't know what you want, and you don't know what the hell is going on.
But still, it's kind of a coincidence he happens to have a taxi cab that travels back in time, as well as Frank's first Christmas memory taking place in 1955, and that this movie was released 3 years after. Okay, you get my drift. But aside from questioning the originality, he's a lot of fun.
Let's face it, Frank, garden slugs got more out of life than you did.
Name one.
Then there's The Ghost of Christmas Present. And at this point, you can tell she's my favorite of the three, as she shows Frank the current time while beating the crap out of him.
Why did you do that?
Sometimes you have to slap them in the face just to get their attention.
This one has so much energy, and many great quotable lines, that she is arguably the one that steals the show. While she's on screen, she doesn't hesitate or even stop to slap Bill around, and it's very well timed. But just like the Ghost of Christmas Past, she tends to sympathize Frank's choices and what problems they've been creating.
I him to Christmas dinner every year, and every year he's too busy to come. And when are you going to learn?
Well, never. He's my brother. A toast to my brother Frank. I wish he was here. Were, Goofy.
I understand.
So you're probably thinking past and present have been quite humorous. Maybe the Ghost of Christmas Future will be a riot.
Ow! Oh, it's you, creep.
That's not whimsical. That's not lighthearted. Okay, it's official. This thing is creepy as hell. Of course, what is a Christmas Carol adaptation without scares? Before I go into detail over the Ghost of Christmas Future, let me say this is probably the darker of the comical adaptations. While most versions tend to stay true to its scary tone, the lighthearted attempts like Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol tend to be more upbeat in some spots. With Scrooged, it really balances out the comedy and scares rather well. They're not in your face, and while the unexpected timing is not jump scare worthy, it's very eerie, like this restaurant scene.
And one for you.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I thought you ordered a highball. Like I said, they're not forced to make you feel scared, but more creeped out. To compare, the latest Christmas Carol by Robert Zemeckis stays true to the original novel, but perhaps a bit too close. The one scene I can remember that really disturbed me was the bit with ignorance and want and how the Ghost of Christmas Past departs. I won't give too much away, but let me say, I'll never look at that poster for Evil Dead 2 the same way again. Basically, or at least in my opinion, the scares in Zemeckis' version added an over-the-top feel to it. With Scrooged, you don't get that feeling. It's evenly spread and allows you not to act frightened 100% of the time. Anyway, back to Christmas Future. As honestly, there's not much to say. True, there's a lot of screening time for past and present, but with Future, there's little he does other than showing Frank the possible outcome of his actions if he continues his cynical ways through a time-traveling elevator. Still, the appearance is very chilling, and when he does appear, you know this is one spirit you can't joke with. Even with a TV screen for a head and the evil spirits of man under his cloak, this one is a real scary delight. But maybe that is the other reason why I find this one memorable as well. Even if you did have time with a cabbie and a ball-busting fairy, you could connect to them. Elsewise, with this one, he feels really alien to you. Speaking of scares, there is one in particular I find to be very powerful and haunting, but you're probably gonna have to watch the movie for yourself to find out why. Trust me as I say this, it's too good of a scene to spoil. Other than that, Scrooge is a rather decent adaptation of the Charles Dickens classic. And while it's not the best, it does something different while taking the common cliches one can point out and creating a different spin with it. In fact, I found it interesting how it keeps playing with the fact you don't know if Frank is hallucinating or this is really happening. This is pointed out in scenes prior to the ghost's arrival that Frank is a constant drinker and under heavy stress from the production of the show he's producing. So one can get the idea that a vodka bender and massive pressure equals Frank having a ghostly hallucination. But then again, they do play around with that a lot, so it's a matter of you expect it for what it is or see the logic behind it. Unfortunately, not everyone was open to this movie when it was first released. Scrooged did perform rather successful at the box office, but not in blockbuster bucks aside from gaining back twice its production budget. Even critics were rather heavily negative towards it, saying it was mean-spirited and the dark tone and comedy didn't mesh very well.
Did you get any joy of performance out of Bill Murray?
Yes,
I don't think he enjoyed making this picture.
Well, I have no idea, and I don't know whether any actor likes doing the work that they do, and I don't know that I care. I mean, it wouldn't seem like it would be fun.
Well, it's your test. You ought to care.
No.
But the point is, a lot of people were not ready for a darker version of what people thought was a simple, heartwarming tale. Then again, people do have their different tastes in terms of dark matter, don't they? Viewers and critics alike have their own seance on what they feel is more suitable to their advantage, but this is a Christmas Carol we're talking about here. The original novel wasn't a pretty picture to begin with, and I feel maybe viewers weren't ready for darker movies, as it was proven with John Carpenter's The Thing and Return to Oz. But over the years, it has maintained a strong cult following, and personally, I'm glad to say I'm a fan of this movie. If you have the chance, I say, give it a watch. It's a movie that... Tell me, is the future that bad as I would have expected?
What did I say about theatrics?
What's the word?
Well, the future is not all that bad.
Really?
Well, if you count the demise of these poor saps.
Hello, eBay. Let's see here.
Honestly, what's with the idea of using my television as a viewmaster of the past, present, and future?
We used to go into them, but our budget started to get drained and had to cut back on the travel.
One mini DV camcorder. I think I'll set the bidding at $560. A VCR. Those are rare these days, and I was just so lucky enough to snatch one up when no one else was about. I think $950 ought to be a fair bargain.
Shame. I can't even believe he would stoop so low to sell his own possessions.
Who said anything about them being his?
I beg your pardon?
One Steamboat Itchy poster. About 15. Seems to be a fair cut.
But that could be anyone's.
Copy of the Earth Day Special. Ah, that's a hard one. How about $450? I think that someone like him had such nostalgic items that would be worth so much money.
Norm, can I make a request for some tenderness?
Nothing like playing Sonic 3 to get your mind off things. Is that right, Charlie? It's not been the same since the accident. Who would have thought that being a mute video gamer would be so difficult? Even when you tear your hair out after playing The Ninja.
Mike.
He gave that silent cry such a yell to his little hair gave out. Still, he was kind enough to leave me his room. A memory where he once stood.
Norm, must it be a Christmas that brings about this awful scene? How can he endure it?
Life is full of meetings and partings. I'll never forget Mike and how he went. At least he'll have a voice of opinion. Wherever he is.
tragic event caused all this?
It's more of a casualty.
A death? What is the purpose of presenting me with this? Are these the shadows of things that will be or may be?
Well, it depends on your point of view.
Truly, these things can be altered.
Apparently, your pessimistic views grew from the holiday to life in general. It caused you to be isolated from everyone and those who knew you well. As a result, your death was due to a lack of socialization.
But how? They cared for me.
By giving them bad advice, shutting out on charity, and the fact that you don't know the half of what Christmas truly is. It doesn't come from a store or a gift you anticipate. And more than a holiday that comes year after year. It's the only time family and friends get together to reminisce of the past before they move on to the next.
Then why show me this when I'm past all hope?
To recall the past, focus on the present, and the hope to be a better person in the future. Is more than just for your amends. It's for them as well.
Please. Hear me. I'm not the man I was. I promised to keep Christmas all throughout the year. And within my heart, I will live in the past, in the present, in the future. Please. I'll change. I'll change. I'll change. I'll change. Morning! It's morning! It's morning! I'm still here. I'm still here. So is my room. So is my stuff. It's not sold after all. I will live. I will live in the past, in the present, in the future, and the times beyond that may be. Oh, Mr. Molly. Oh, heaven and the Christmas time be praised. I wonder what day it is.
Why, if you had any sense in your head, you would know that it is Christmas Day.
Christmas. The specials.
Merry Christmas! It's a joy to serve Wilkins coffee to so many people at Christmas. It's a joy to you. You're not pulling the sled.
The commercialism. There's only one thing left to prove it. The crowd pleaser! It is Christmas Day. It was all done in one night.
Whatever happened to dissing the holiday?
Oh, I believe the true question is, when is the expiration date on your charity?
It doesn't end till New Year's.
I didn't miss it. Curious, but, would you accept a donation?
How much are we talking about?
Well,
You can't be serious.
Well, every little bit counts.
For tripe's sake, Mark, what's gone into you?
Yeah. Whatever happened to going against charity?
Whatever happened to going against being merry?
Whatever happened to going against Christmas?
Going against Christmas? Why should we? In fact, what are we all doing here? This is the time of year to go out, celebrate, and make amends for what you've done. True, some of us were negative this year, but does that mean we have to be like that all year? This is more than just a holiday. It's about everybody. Even if we can't afford big things, it all comes from where we least suspect it. From all of us. A man once said, if you work really hard and you're kind enough, amazing things will happen. And at long last, I finally believe in it to know that Christmas is not about the gifts, or the commercialism, or the way the holidays run. It's about us, and where we stand in life. And if you're that person who wants to do good to the world, do it. You'll be their Santa. Or else how can we make a difference in our lives?
Well, at least I didn't make the drastic decision of selling you completely. Not that drastic.
Did I forget something, pal?
God bless us, everyone. Bless soldier, bloody vocal cords!
Christmas spirit works in strange ways. Merry Christmas, everyone.
And where are you going?
Oh, well, I decided I'm going to do the holidays right and spend time with the folks like I normally do. Isn't that right, Norm? Well, at least we'll have a Happy New Year.
your fellow man. Lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late.
Oh, please don't hesitate.
Put a little love in your heart.
And the world will be a better place.
And the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see. There's a story that I've been told, and I wanna tell the world before I get too old and don't remember it. So let's assemble it and reassemble it. Oh yeah. Once upon a time in a town like this, a little girl made a great big wish to fill the world full of happiness and be on Santa's magic list. So take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide, kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart.
And the world will be a better place.
And the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see. Wait and see.
At the same time, miles away, a little boy made a wish that day that the world would be okay and Santa Claus would hear him say,
I got dreams and I got love. I got my feet on the ground and family above. Can you send some happiness with my best to the rest of the people of the East and the West? Maybe every once in a while. And if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart.
but we'll be freezing in style.
Let me meet a girl one day, and kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart. Check it up, have some happiness with me, and the world will be a better place. And the world will be a better place for you and me. You just wait and see. I know you're out there. I hear your reindeer. I see the snow where your boots have been. I'm gonna show them so they will know then their love will grow when
They believe again.
shake it up the happiness, wake it up to the happiness. Come on, your little love, it's Christmas time. Shake it up the